Delta 435, Delta 4.
Charlie 438. Delta 320, I'll be around CDC, want to go now?
Delta 320, Delta 4. Delta 4. CDC 1. CDC 1.
Yes, ma'am. Be advised I'm going to be en route to Nueces County Jail with 4 males and 1 female. Starting miles are going to be 9987.7.
Delta 4, 2 a.m.
Distinguished guests, the President of the United States, accompanied by Corey Dowd.
Highway 77 northbound and County Road 18, I believe. And it's going to be out of Texas. Could be Frank, David.
My name is Corey Dowd.
4153, Frank David X-ray, 4153.
In 2018, I finished my service in the Peace Corps,
Southbound and County Road 18.
becoming a self-employed
David
contractor
X-ray 41.
while I waited to enroll in grad school.
Northbound, northbound.
For the first time in my life, I was
northbound.
responsible for buying my own health insurance. I was a healthy, active 32-year-old with no reason to believe I'd be seriously sick before I got on a student health plan. But I wanted to be responsible and protect myself against the worst case scenario. So, I purchased a 6-month plan with a high deductible and what I thought was good coverage. But just weeks before leaving for school, I woke up with severe stomach pain and had an emergency surgery to remove my appendix. A few months later, the hospital called to tell me that my insurance company was only paying for $4,000 and that I was responsible for the rest, more than $37,000. This was the worst case scenario I had been trying to avoid. It turns out that buried in the fine print, my plan put limits on how much they would pay for certain expenses, even emergency surgeries. As I later learned, I had purchased a short-term plan that didn't have to play by the same rules as regular health insurance. These junk healthcare plans don't have to cover things like surgeries, prescription drugs, mental health visits, or even pre-existing conditions. For me, there was both a financial and emotional cost. I've always considered myself a very responsible person, but this really took a toll on my self-esteem and my identity. Fortunately, my story has a happy ending. The national news coverage of what happened to me motivated the insurance company to pay the rest of my bill. But not everyone is so lucky. That's why I'm proud that we have a president who has made affordable health care a priority. And that is It is my greatest honor to introduce him today. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please, have a seat. You know, Corey, what you exposed is something that I think we don't pay enough attention to in government. And it's not necessarily about health care, it's just about being played for a sucker. When I started to deal with junk fees relating to airline costs, ticket fees, baggage and like, I think even some of the folks working with me thought it's not that big a deal. But, you know, in America, it sounds corny, but fairness is something we kind of expect. And I don't know anybody who likes being viewed as having been played for a sucker, taken advantage of. People are ready to meet their responsibilities. But I think this is a big deal. It's a big deal, and I have to thank my staff, and I mean that sincerely, for focusing on the healthcare piece. I didn't know some of this. I thought I knew a hell of a lot about healthcare. I've been a significant... I've been a significant consumer, and my family has as well. But look, Corey, your story, it turns out, is a very familiar one to too many Americans. You try to do the right thing, only get ripped off instead. And too many nights, too many Americans lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, worrying what will happen if their spouse gets seriously ill. What will happen if something else happens to them? They have enough insurance.
I'm on it. I'll
Will they have to, how are they going to pay their medical bills? Will they have to sell their home? If you can know point of personal privilege, we used to say in the Senate, I was telling my staff that I was raised with a middle-class family. Three-bedroom house, 4 kids, and a grandpop, split-level home, and the boys, quote-unquote, now the princess, my sister, had her own bedroom, as she should have. But the 3 boys, there were 2 sets of bunks in the other room. And there was a closet that ran as you walked up the stairs, walked straight down the hall. You went into, quote, the boys' room, the 3 of us. And on the left, there was a closet in that whole wall. My parents' bed, headboard, was against that, where that closet was. And every once in a while, rarely, you could hear sort of a restlessness going on, you know, like and one morning I get up and I said, what's wrong with Dad? He said he just got word that his company said they're no longer going to pay for health insurance. Don't know what they're going to do. Well, you know, for all of you out there and there's so many people who still are in that circumstance. And talk about being deprived of your dignity. Not being able to take care of your family if you don't have health insurance is I think, one of the most consequential things that can happen to a person. And so, you know, for all of you out there, I just want you to know, I get it, we get it. We have your back. And we're never going to stop fighting for you, I promise you. You know, since I've been in office, we've been carrying out my economic vision. All right. I carry out my economic vision to move from trickle-down economics to what everyone on the Wall Street Journal, from the Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, is calling Bidenomics. It's about growing the economy from the middle out or bottom up. Because when that happens, the folks in the bottom have a shot. They get a chance to raise up, and the wealthy still do very well. It's not to hurt anyone at all. But today's job shows, I think, jobs report, shows that Bidenomics is working. We added 200,000 jobs, I think 209,000 jobs last month. And all told, we've created over 13 million. In 2.5 years, that's more than any president ever created in a 4 years.
Building annual location that does drugs becomes delusional, if there's mental issues, it won't fight, and fight is starting suicide by cops. It's not
Not
Thursday on the
since
call,
1960.
but at the same location.
Inflation continues to fall. It's less than half of what it was a year ago. And the rate of Americans without health insurance is at an all-time low. Premiums are covered. Premiums for coverage of the Affordable Care Act are $800 less per person than before I took office. And that's Bidenomics. Today I'm joined by healthcare advocates and leaders. Many of I've started to name you all. We'd be here all night. But I want to talk about key parts of my economic plan of protecting consumers and reducing healthcare costs without in any way hurting insurance companies, docs, hospitals, or anybody else. You know, in my State of the Union address, I outlined our fight to end junk fees and hidden charges for companies who sneak into your bills, things that you don't think you're going to pay for. Each year, those junk fees cost hundreds of dollars a month for tens of billions of dollars, weighing down family budgets and making it harder for people to pay their bills. Junk fees may not matter to the very wealthy, and it's not the wealthy's fault, by the way, but they matter to working folks in homes like the ones I grew up in. Over the past few months, my administration has cracked down on junk fees across different industries: banking, hotels, concerts, tickets, airlines, cable, internet, and the internet. And today I'm pleased to announce that we're making some progress in healthcare. First, my administration is cracking down on junk fees for health insurance plans that are like the ones that are inexpensive but too often stick consumers with hidden fees. As Corey just talked about, junk fee plans are short-term health insurances that are supposed to provide a few months of temporary coverage for people who are moving from one plan to another. But the prior administration before me decided to let insurance companies make more money by selling junk plans that are up to 3 years long. Americans thought they were buying temporary insurance that would provide real coverage. Instead, many have been saddled with thousands of dollars in medical bills these junk fees don't cover. And I think it's outrageous. There are two main ways junk fees stick you with. One way, you need an emergency surgery to get an appendix removed, but hidden in the fine print, this plan said it would only cover a fraction of the $37,000 the hospital bill was, even though he was paying his insurance premiums every month. Another predatory way of getting around protection, Rock and I fought so hard in the Affordable Care Act to accomplish, protecting millions of people with pre-existing conditions like cancer and heart disease. That was a way to get around that. Just imagine if you had a heart attack and you expect your insurance company to pay for it, or you're diagnosed with a cancer and you expect your insurance company to pay for it. But they dig into your medical records, discover you had asthma as a kid, claim you had a heart attack as a pre-existing condition, and then refuse to pay. Folks, that's not health insurance. That's a scam. That's a scam. It has to end. And folks, today, my administration is issuing a new rule that would close the loophole that allows these junk insurance plans to exploit Americans. Under our rule, short-term plans would have to be short-term. That is 4 months or less, not 3 years. Insurance companies would also be required to provide a clear disclaimer up front about what's covered and what is not covered instead of burying it in fine print. Second, we're cracking down on surprise medical bills, which I thought we had made some progress on. You've already heard stories about people who choose a hospital that's in their insurance network, and they get a surprise bill for thousands of dollars because the hospital assigned them an anesthesiologist who wasn't in their network, without them knowing that. In January 2022, we ended surprise medical billing, so hospitals that can't send you a surprise bill for an out-of-network doctor that you did not choose or even know he was consulted. And over the past 18 months, we protected 1 million Americans every single month from these surprise bills. But these are bills that cost people hundreds of thousands of dollars. But get this, some health care providers are trying to get around the rule by putting in place the rule we put in place by prevent these surprise billings. The travel industry figured out how to charge customers $90 a night resort fees for hotels that aren't resorts. You think I'm kidding? Hospitals are trying to do something similar by using different designations to charge their higher out-of-network rates, or charging hidden facility fees for going to a doctor's office in the building owned by the hospital. And some hospitals are working with credit card companies to promote medical credit cards. Sounds good. Consumers can use these cards to borrow money to pay for the procedures and get charged, but in the hospital, they get charged higher interest rates as a result of that. It's wrong. It's wrong. Today, my administration is closing these surprise billing loopholes. Evading the law and playing games to charge crazy living prices has to end. It has to end. Folks, we're putting a stop to insurance companies gaming the networks and making them reveal any hidden facility fees. They got to reveal them. And for the first time in history, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the Department of Health and Human Services and the Department of Treasury are teaming up to investigate whether health care providers promoting medical credit cards are violating federal law. Third, we're lowering prescription drug prices for seniors and people with disabilities. With your help, I signed into law the Inflation Reduction Act. Among the many important things it does, it finally gives Medicare the power to negotiate lower prescription drug prices. Like the Department of Veterans Affairs does now. We've been trying to get this done for decades. I don't know how many times I made this speech on the floor of the United States Senate. Many. Along with many others, but now. And this time we finally beat Big Pharma. Seniors on Medicare who are paying as much as $400 a month for insulin are now paying $35 a month. And I might add, the guy who invented the insulin, he didn't even patent it. He thought everybody should have access to it. It cost $10 to make. The package is made as high as $13. They're still making 3 times what it cost them. It's not like they're being cheated. You know, we also closed the total out-of-pocket drug costs for seniors on Medicare at $2,000 a year, even for expensive drug costs like cancer drugs are $10,000, $12,000, $14,000 a year. Today, the Department of Health and Human Services released a report showing that when these provisions go into effect, they don't go into effect until 2025, 1 in 3 Medicare beneficiaries, that's nearly 19 million people, will save an average of $400 a year. Seniors with the highest drug costs will save an average of $2,500 a year. This is going to reduce out-of-pocket spending by Americans by nearly $7.5 billion annually. And guess what? It matters. When we're negotiating the issue on whether the government's going to stay open, I spoke to some of my MAGA Republican friends. It not only saves the consumer, it saves every taxpayer. You're not paying that extra $7 billion because Medicare doesn't have to take the out-of-pocket and pay it. Last week, the Centers for Medical and Medicaid Services released the final guidance on how they'll negotiate with drug companies to lower prescription drug prices. On September 1st, I'll announce the first 10 drugs selected for negotiation. This will not only save consumers money, it's going to save the federal government money, as I just referenced. Negotiating drug prices alongside other parts of my prescription drug plan is going to save the taxpayers so far $160 billion. $160 billion. It lowers drug costs and prescription drugs, and it lowers the deficit. It lowers the deficit. And I might add, all the talk about the big spend of Biden, I lowered the deficit. $1,700,000,000,000 in the first 2 years. No one's ever done that. The last guy increased it by 40. Anyway, I won't go into that. Well, that's Bidenomics in action. But guess what? Big Pharma doesn't want this to happen, so they're suing us to block us from negotiating lower prices so they can pad their profits while hardworking Americans foot the bill. But we're gonna see this through. We're gonna keep standing up to Big Pharma, and we'll also stand up to MAGA Republicans who've been trying for years to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. They've tried 70,000 times, I think. To deny Americans access to the Affordable Health Care Act. On my watch, health care is not a privilege in this country, it should be a right. And folks, let me close with this. When I ran for president, I promised I would not continue the trickle-down economics of the past. Because here's the simple truth. Trickle-down economics represented the moment we walked away from how this country was built in the first place. Bidenomics is just the other way around. Restoring the American dream. 40 years of trickle-down economics limit the dream to those at the top. I believe that every American willing to work hard should be able to get a good job, afford good health care, no matter where they live, in every part of the country, if they're willing to work. That's the American dream. That's Bidenomics. And that's why I can honestly say I really haven't, I know I don't look like it, but I've been around a while. But all kidding aside, I've never been more optimistic about America's future than I am today. I really mean that. I genuinely mean that. We just have to remember who in God's name we are. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity if we work together. There's not a single major problem we decided to solve as a country together that we've not succeeded in doing. Not a single one. And so why are we stopping now? There's so much opportunity. And because of all of you and the minds and the courage that you all represent in this room, I really mean it, there's no reason why we can't continue this. And by the way, we're going to be fair. The suppliers, the drug dealers, are still going to do very well. Everybody's going to just do fine. I'm just tired of seeing Americans ripped off. God bless you all.
Distinguished guests, please remain in your seats as the President departs the East Room. Thank you.
Charlie 432, December 16006.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Charlie 410, Charlie 465, disturbance approximate 2034 Caroline, 2034 Caroline. Contact Makita. Be advised, there's a couple of mothers arguing and being aggressive reporting party. They had just gotten home. As there wasn't in the home, possibly the male has a weapon, possibly in the vehicle. Suspect vehicles a silver Dodge truck, Hispanic male, short blue jeans, and a Hispanic female, and a white dress. I'll be advised us to try to stop them fighting and they followed them home and started arguing and being aggressive. As a male driving up and down the street speeding and females on the sidewalk.
female, there's no burglary.
Charlie, for sending up burglary, 036 10 4.
Charlie 375, 1 no subject, 15.
Charlie 375, 1 male subject, 15 228.
Bureau, look at that. You have to look at this. So there's this guy in Atlanta. He comes into this nail salon. He tries to rob it. Listen.
Everybody get down! Get it on the money! It's got the boxes! Get it on the money! Get down! Where's the money?
Like, does anybody in there even flinch? Like, not even, I mean, one person, I guess, but that's like the I don't give a of like all thefts ever. Just completely ignored. Somebody left, and then that was like pretty much it. Apparently the guy left. That was it. That was the end of it. He just kind of gives up and walks out.
There's something you should know about your tap water.
Charlie 430, no female in custody.
Charlie 430, still in custody, 230. Charlie 467.
Charlie 397, please.
Charlie 399. Four 88229 out of Maryland, 10-4.
Now at 11, the body of Rutland City Police Officer Jessica Ebbinghausen is back home in Rutland tonight. The 19-year-old new recruit was killed in a terrible crash in Rutland on Friday following a police chase. First responders from nearly 36 departments providing a full honors escort from the medical examiner's office in Burlington back down to Rutland this afternoon. The medical examiner ruling the cause of Ebbinghausen's death as blunt force trauma. Her manner of death is pending. Meantime, just hours ago, the Rutland County State's Attorney filed multiple charges against the man accused of killing Officer Ebbinghausen and injuring 2 more officers when he crashed into 2 police cruisers in Rutland yesterday afternoon. 20-year-old Tate Riam is being charged with grossly negligent operation of a vehicle with death resulting and attempting to elude with death resulting. The Rutland County State's Attorney says more charges are possible. Riam is in custody while being hospitalized at UVM Medical Center, where he's being treated for injuries that he sustained in that crash Friday afternoon. He is set to face a judge on Monday. These charges come as we learn more about 19-year-old Officer Jessica Ebbinghausen, who had only been with the Rutland City Police Department since May 23rd. She was set to attend the Vermont Police Academy next month, fulfilling a dream that she had since she was a little girl, which was to be a police officer. The Rutland community is reeling tonight, honoring Ebbinghausen's memory and supporting the Rutland City Police Department, where you can see flowers and messages continue to be dropped off at a police cruiser parked right outside of the station, a memorial to a young officer who died serving the community that she loved.
and for 46 for the Bureau.
The Ebbinghausen family lost a loved one, a 19-year-old young woman. As I said, we're hurting, but we'll get through this. We'll persevere. We'll continue to serve the community in a manner I think that will make you proud.
Vermont State Police say that funeral arrangements for Officer Ebbinghausen are still pending and will be released in accordance with the family's wishes.
Charlie 4 detail for Charlie 375. Detail 4 to me 5014 at Mission. Correction, at O'Reilly. Meet him at O'Reilly.
A local nonprofit is speaking out after 2 women were found dead by St. Paul police. Officers located the remains of 33-year-old Fanta Sayavong yesterday. The person of interest in that case is the same man charged with the murder of his girlfriend, Manijay Stareen, whose remains were found last week. Renee Cooper spoke with Violence Free Minnesota today, which tracks cases of partner violence. She joins us with their message. Renee?
Hey, Callan. Yeah, we've reported on several of these cases, and as police work to pin down what exactly happened to Fanta Sayavong, domestic violence advocates are sounding the alarm.
33-year-old Fanta Sayavong hadn't been heard from or seen since 2021. Details about her disappearance have been slim until St. Paul police announced an arrest in the case of another missing woman, 34-year-old Manijay, or Manny Stareen. Her boyfriend, 40-year-old Joseph Jorgensen, charged with her murder last Friday after Stareen's remains were found in a Woodbury storage unit. A week later,
unfortunately, for the second time in a week, I'm here to report that we found a missing person deceased.
St. Paul police on Friday saying a tip led them to another storage unit in Coon Rapids, where they found Sayavong's remains.
They reported to us that Fanta was in an abusive relationship. They stated that Fanta was in a relationship with Joseph Jorgensen. And they had lost contact with her, and they were concerned for her safety. He is just a person of interest. He has a connection to her, as well as Manny.
As police work to solidify what happened to Sayavong, domestic violence nonprofit Violence Free Minnesota is sounding the alarm.
It's horrifying.
Stareen's death marks the 13th murder connected to intimate partner violence this year.
Someone is killed due to domestic violence every other week.
Spokesperson Joe Shannon says that number includes victims killed by a current or former partner and bystanders and interveners, like Polk County Deputy Josh Owen, killed responding to a domestic violence call in April.
All of these are preventable.
Shannon offering advice to family and friends concerned for a loved one who may be in an abusive relationship.
Being a trusting friend to that person, just letting them know you're there, and keep reaching out. Don't tell them what they need to do. Ask what you can do to support them. And then if you're suffering from abuse, know that there are people out there who can help you.
Today, St. Paul police couldn't tell me exactly when to expect charges in Sayavong's death, as that investigation is ongoing. A spokesperson did tell me Jorgensen is still in custody on $5 million bond in Stareen's death. Now, if you or anyone you know is struggling, call the Day One hotline confidentially at 866-223-1111 or text 612-399-9995. Again, all of this is over on our website if you missed it. In the newsroom, Renee Cooper, 5 Eyewitness News.
Turning now to the forecast, we have enjoyed just a beautiful day. Matt, I know you're tracking a little bit warmer Sunday ahead.
Yes, you still have one more night, though, where you can just have all the windows open in the house because temperatures are cooling off rather quickly. Winds are calming down as well, so winds are going to blow too much around. You see they're at the west-northwest at about 10 miles.
Sorry, 20, go ahead.
Sam Tom X-ray 8011. Second place is going to be King John Henry 2070. Start crash number Brent.
Coming 4314, 4314, Charlie 465, that is Charlie 502 Williams, 502 Williams. Yeah, we're fine now. Charlie 385, intercept shot heard, it's Monisha Alameda, Monisha Alameda.
Charlie 35, right?
Well, 466.
I clear out that suspicion. Back to the right.
Charlie 410, 10-4.
So if you're not here. United Governor.
Corpus Christi City Council is expected to revive a breakdown of the latest COVID-19 relief package. City Manager Peter Zanoni will be updating the council on the city's allocation of the American Rescue Plan funds. As we've reported, the $1.9 trillion stimulus package was passed by Congress earlier this month. We will have a breakdown on how those funds will be allocated and how they will impact you on our later newscast. And the City Council is also expected to move forward with several repair projects today. The council is scheduled to discuss awarding a construction contract worth over $1 million. The money would be used to perform maintenance repairs on the seawall extending from McGee Beach to the barge dock. Repairs to Mirador 1 and the Salina Memorial are also being discussed. Now,
Can you copy a third place? It's going to be Henry Sam Nora 1287. The Sam Tom X-ray.
We have new information tonight on a 6 Investigate story that we have been following for nearly 3 years. The City of Corpus Christi's Audit Committee meets tomorrow, and the auditor herself is the main topic. Chief Investigator Matt Stevens is here now with more on this story. Matt.
Katia, some might find it pretty tough to believe that it will be 3 years on April 10th that Kimberly Houston has been serving as interim auditor. Interim because, according to a city ordinance, she cannot have the permanent job until she passes a certification test. And she hasn't passed.
Kimberly Houston was promoted April 10th, 2018, and was given a year to pass the 3-part certification test. When she failed the first time, the council gave her an extension, accepting the explanation that she was busy trying to reorganize the department and hire new people.
I care about what I do. I've become a member of the community, and I really am invested in the success of the city.
As 6 Investigates reported, 2 extensions and 2 more failures followed. And now the latest deadline, March 1st, has come and gone. City Manager Peter Zanoni says it's part 3 of the test that she keeps failing, the part that deals with financial and managerial accounting and information technology.
Kim's goal in every audit is to help us improve as an organization. As the city manager, my experience with her for the past 23 months has been nothing but professional and positive. She's doing a great job for the taxpayer and for the city organization.
But Zanoni doesn't get a vote. After the 4 people on the audit committee make a recommendation, the full council will decide Houston's fate. That includes Mayor Paulette Guajardo, who isn't opposed to tweaking the ordinance.
Not get rid of the ordinance, but possibly adjust the ordinance. But again, the council members that are on audit committee, my expectation is that they are going to discuss this thoroughly and absolutely keep that as an option.
I took a telephone poll of 8 council members. The new ones were unfamiliar with Houston's work, but the others, nothing but good things to say. So how about dumping the certification requirement? Many cities don't have one. There wasn't much enthusiasm for that. Most said they're just hoping she'll pass the test the next time. And there will be a next time. Katya.
My goodness. All right, Matt Stevens, thank you for that.
Charlie, 410-5.
Charlie, 410-5. Unify destruction on the progress 4667 heart, 4667 heart.
Congratulations to the National Small Business Week Award winners. Your models of grit, heart, drive, and determination. All the virtues that literally built America. This week, small businesses are the engine of our economy. The glue, they really are the glue, the heart and soul of communities. Every business here has a story, and the Small Business Administration has helped tell those stories, your stories, and to grow your businesses.